Welcome everyone to our LA ACM SIGGRAPH November 11th tour of Unreal Engine. Version 5.6 introduced improvements to rendering, animation, procedural workflows, and more. I am Abeline Harper, the chair of LA ACM SIGGRAPH, which stands for Los Angeles Association for Computing Machinery, Special Interest Group on Computer Graphics Professional Chapter. Let me introduce LA SIGGRAPH's producer, moderator, and past chair, Ed Lance. Thank you.
Thanks, Abeline. Good to see everyone here. Guys, thanks for jumping in. We have more folks coming in as we speak here. I will go ahead and introduce our presentation, our presenters. We have a really fascinating tour of what's new in Unreal Engine 5.6. I thought, though, before we get started, it might be nice to do a little poll and just see where everyone's at. Unreal is increasing in popularity constantly. And, we would just want to see where you guys are at in terms of your experience level with Unreal, with the animation in general. So let me launch this and see if we can get some responses. This is great. So it looks like we have a small number of advanced folks here and a larger number of beginners, some with no experience in Unreal. So Ed, I think this should help you, you guys, Ed and John, to to focus the poll. There's the results. And so you can see where we're at as a group. So without further ado here, I am going to go ahead and introduce everyone. Ed Dawson, I've known for some years. He has really deep hands-on supervisory experience in CG with ILM, Disney, Digital Domain, and others, and has worked on films like Jurassic World, Lion King, Jungle Book. He's very experienced, with visual effects, especially Unreal virtual production. He is a co-founder of CG Pro School, which is teaching Unreal. And I believe he has a class coming up this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. He'll tell you about. And then John Waynick is a 3D environment artist, storyteller, educated, who crafts immersive worlds for games, film, real-time experiences, and more. He is very experienced in Unreal Engine, but also Maya, ZBrush, and Substance. And John is passionate about bridging emotion and innovation and helping teams translate creative intent into visually stunning and interactive realities. So with that, guys, why don't you come on screen and take it away. And just so you know, we will have a Q&A at the end. So hang out. Also, put your any questions that you have in the Q&A box down below. So Ed and John, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ed.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Hey, John.
Hey, Ed.
Good to see you.
Long time no talk. What, couple hours?
If that. Oh, boy. We got some fun tonight. I'm excited. And Ed, thank you so much for the introduction. SIGGRAPH. huge thank you for having us involved in this session tonight, for doing great work out there for the past, how many years is it now? 50 years. Anyway, we are huge SIGGRAPH fans and definitely nerds of the computer graphics variety and very passionate about this subject. It's my pleasure to have John with me tonight. I know he possibly wasn't on the promo material, but John is a wizard with Unreal Engine. He's been doing it for more than twice as long as me. 20, how many years is it, John? 22?
What is it, 2025 now? Yeah, 22 years. Yeah, 2003. Yeah, was when I was first introduced to Unreal Engine version 2. It's come a very long way since then.
Wow. Yeah, that's a long time. Almost since, not quite since the beginning of its life, but close to it. It has evolved a lot in that time. I'm going to start sharing my screen so we can start showing. But yeah, my name's Ed, and I will introduce myself now. My name is Ed, and I've co-founder, as Ed said, of CG Pro. I've been in the visual effects industry for about 20 years, and before that, I was a software engineer. Back in the day, I used to be a GIS software engineer. For anyone who doesn't know what that is, it is geographic information systems, or maps. So I was a code monkey, and I've been a visual effects monkey for the last 20 years. I love computer graphics. I've been doing it since I was 6 years old, so 40 something years, and still love it. And my goodness, is it going through a transformation right now? Possibly, probably, definitely the biggest one that I've known in my lifetime. Hopefully you guys can see my screen share. We are going to be going through a lot of Unreal Engine, but I would not feel right without giving a nod to some of the other stuff that's going on at the moment. So we are going to throw in some, yes, AI. It's the topic du jour, and we're not going to avoid it. We're going to show how it can be used a little bit with Unreal Engine, and talk a little bit about where CG might be going, as it is going through a wild transformation right now. I studied AI back in computer vision and various forms of AI back in 1998, and AI points back to way before that, back to the 40s or before. But it is maturing, and it is going to be in everything we do, I think, and like the internet. So anyway, as I said, been around VFX for a while. I've worked at ILM, NPC, DD, not all, but some of the big studios and some of the small ones too. Worked on Lion King and Jungle Book and some of the formative virtual production movies. And I have been a software engineer, as it says. I've been teaching for most of my career. Formed a teaching company 5 years ago in response to the world wanting to know about virtual production, which it still does, but now it really wants to know about AI too. So we're teaching both of those things. And yeah, John, do you want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, I'll do a quick intro. So my name is John. I am if I had to quantize my title into something, it would probably be technical environment artist. I'm a 3D environment artist that has a lot of tech art skills on top of that. But it's not the only thing I do. I also have gotten really deep into the game design aspect of things over the last several years. I have my own background in software engineering a little bit. I also have a background in stage construction for plays and some TV productions way back in the day. So everything I do in digital 3D comes from the real world, which is also one of the things that has me obsessed with lighting. That's another big thing that I do. But like I'd mentioned before, I'd been using Unreal Engine since 2003. My uncle actually worked at Epic Games, and he introduced me to what he was working on with Unreal Engine version 2, which he was not supposed to, but Tim Sweeney said it's okay now because he's very thankful that I've been able to come in and, instruct a lot of people on how to use Unreal these days. But I was actually, fun fact, one of the original alpha testers for Unreal Engine 4. So when the rest of the world got to get their hands on it in 2014, I actually started working with UE4 in 2011. And so going through that, Unreal Engine 5, where it's at right now, 5.6 is what we're talking about today, actually is just a natural evolution from UE4. Each iteration prior, from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, were big changes in how the engine worked, but 4 kind of solidified this new workflow. Unreal Engine 5 is just built upon 4. So I have been having fun with Unreal and all the different aspects of it, especially Blueprint, one huge thing that I absolutely love. And I've watched all of these things evolve over time, and I've had to adapt. And so one of the things that I like to do is for my students, because I'm an instructor as well, is I like to teach them how to be adaptable and how to take in these foundational skills that once you have those foundational skills, everything else that changes with the engine, you can always go back to those foundational skills to get a jumping off point to learn the new things. But that's me probably talking too much. Let's get into the fun stuff. Hand it back over to you, Ed.
That's cool. Thanks, John. Yeah, it's important. I mean, the foundations are more important than the tool. The tools change all the time, and it's very important to remember that the personal skills that you have are extremely important. Poll here, and I am still screen sharing with a picture of my face on it. I'm going to talk a little bit more at the end about CG Pro, but CG Pro is a training company. We started 5 years ago. We were Gold Unreal Authorized Training Center. I'm not sure if we're the only one in the United States, but we were the first, and we were the only one for a bit. We're a very active community, and if anybody is interested in Unreal or AI or any of the other things we do, please do get in touch. I'll talk a little bit at the end about a little bit more about that and about the course we've got coming up this weekend. Shameless plug, or not shameless. But yeah, so that is us. Presentation overview. Obviously can't cover everything of the last 30 years of computer graphics research dumped into a wonderful tool like Unreal Engine, but we're going to do our best to cover some of the diff between 5.6, which was the one advertised, but 5.7 came out since then, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. It's in preview, but we are going to go through a little bit of that. We're going to show some stuff. We're going to try and show more than we talk, but we are going to talk a bit. And then after that, we're going to talk a bit about the future of CG, a little broader and a little bit on AI. So there's a lot to cover. The poll shows, just to recap, that 27% of people have no experience with Unreal, 33% beginner level, 20% intermediate level, 7% advanced level, and 13% experienced with animation, but not Unreal Engine. So arguably, possibly 40% not Unreal, because you only got one choice, I think. I couldn't vote. I tried and then realized I wasn't allowed because I'm presenting. Anyway, so I would say 30 to 40% people don't have any experience with Unreal Engine. That is very important to know. So we can just jump in and do a really quick, I don't know what you would call this, preface or something. Can't teach you Unreal Engine in 5 minutes, but what Unreal Engine is, and I'd love John to weigh in here as well, it is a game engine. First and foremost, it became a filmmaking tool through the last 5 years through virtual production and through kind of being beaten up through the Mandalorian and post-Mandalorian era into being a filmmaking tool. It has been used as an interactive development tool for its whole life, games mostly, but then also for all sorts of other things in different industries, from architectural visualization and simulation and automotive. It hits most industries at this point. It's got deep integrations into the GIS world now, which is where I came from before all of this, with things like Cesium, and we'll show a little bit of that. It's a real-time renderer. Visualizer is used in all sorts of different things. It is a world builder. It is a container of computer graphics. It is a renderer, if you like. It wasn't typically until 5 started to kind of solidify its authoring capabilities. It wasn't heavy on the authoring side. It was more of a container, and now it's growing more capabilities to be able to author animations, models, skeletons and rigging and all sorts of things, including characters at this point, and we are going to show some of that tonight. So it's sort of walking towards becoming a DCC in and of itself. In some areas it isn't as advanced, particularly things like modeling, as some of the things that people probably used for a long time in Maya or Houdini or Blender or those kinds of tools. But it is a game engine. It has got to this point in its life, expanded out into doing all sorts of things, but at its core it still is a game engine, and Epic Games' core business is games. John?
Yeah, there's some really cool off the wall things that I've had the pleasure of being able to use Unreal Engine for. The game engine, first and foremost, I can tell you that from all the way back when I first was working with it in 2003. Still a game engine, still a very capable game engine. But it can do all these other things now, of course. Virtual production is a huge thing, but one thing I can tell you from working in virtual production after coming from a background in games is that the best virtual production comes from using it just like you would a game engine. A lot of the typical optimizations and things that you would do for games, you can bring those into virtual production, and that's going to give you a much better uh, performing set that you're going to have out there. But that's just a couple of things. I saw a question in the chat, which about if it can be used for VR, which I'll remind here that any questions anybody has, if you can put it in the Q&A section, that way we can track it. But I'll go ahead and answer that. Yes, Unreal Engine can be used for VR as well. I have personally used it for VR. Going back to the virtual production thing, one of the biggest things that we used to do with that is as we were building our sets out for the shows and stuff that we were working on, our showrunners, our directors, our DPs, everybody would come in and they would put on a VR headset, and we would all go into these multi-user sessions inside of Unreal to be able to look around these sets. That's just one easy tie-in to VR, but I've also built VR games with it. I've built simulations with it. I've done some military contracts. I've done some simulations for transportation industry, aviation industries. But even beyond that, I've gotten to work on some projects where we used Unreal for some unconventional things. For example, we were able to tie it into a WebSocket situation to create a user interface to be able to control all of the lighting, the air conditioner, and pretty much any IoT, which stands for Internet of Things, any smart home type of thing in an office building. We had an interface that we built in Unreal Engine 4 to be able to control all of that. So we had up at the receptionist desk, she had an Unreal Engine interface where she could control all the lights of the office. She could control the temperature, the air conditioning, all of that stuff. Really cool. Also, one of the coolest things that I've been able to use Unreal Engine for outside of the typical games, film, all of that is we had a company I was working for. We had a contract with Walmart where in Bentonville, Arkansas, where they're doing all the crazy stuff that they're doing over there. We had robots that were being driven down the aisles, and they were scanning things and all of that. And we were actually using Unreal as the controller to be able to control these real life robots that are going up and down these aisles. Not to mention, while I'm on the subject of Walmart, Walmart has been using Unreal Engine since Unreal Engine 3 for designing all of their store layouts. So one of the cool things that I got to do there was when Unreal Engine 4 came out, I got to go into the Walmart headquarters and teach their 3D team how to transition over from Unreal Engine 3 into Unreal Engine 4. So next time you find yourself in a Walmart, you're walking down the aisles, you're looking at the items on the shelves and everything, just keep in mind that that particular layout was not only designed in Unreal, but it was tested in Unreal with VR headsets as well to be able to simulate walking down the aisles. So every decision on how those were designed came from Unreal. So hopefully that answers the VR question there. But just
Oh yeah,
few of the things, few of the things that Unreal is able to do.
yeah. I've done a bunch of Unreal VR too, from the Quest headset to which is self-powered, to tethered experiences, to making location-based entertainment for aliens and various IPs. It is heavily used in VR for sure.
Oh yes, oh yes.
And some of the stuff in film as well, and digital twins is a huge area. And as John mentioned, some of the Walmart and it's a huge area. Digital twins growing. All right, let us keep going because we got a bunch of stuff to show. So some recent innovations, and John and I will tag team this section. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the 5.6 stuff here. At any point, you can always go to the roadmap and see the different versions and what things came out or are likely to come out in the future. But 5.6, there was a lot of additions in 5.6, and 5.7 is in preview. From 5.6, we saw the MetaHuman creator in engine. So moving from the cloud to being able to create MetaHumans in engine. And that's actually one of our demos that John is going to show us this evening. They mixed up the UX UI of the viewport, changed that up a little bit. It's better or worse, arguably. Some people, are hooked on the old version. I think some of this other stuff, maybe John, you could talk through, because I know that you've looked into some more of the animation side of things and the character side of things.
Yeah. So the one thing I want to mention real quick about the viewport toolbar and all of that. Yeah, they changed that quite a bit. I actually did a YouTube video on that. I'll get the link and make sure that gets into the chat. I forgot to grab that link ahead of time. But there are some changes there. I'll share that video that goes through how to find all the new things, as well as I have a tool that lets you quickly switch back to the old version of 5.5's viewport toolbar if you wanted to in it. But yeah, the seamless cinematic transitions. This is a really cool plugin that they're experimenting with that I've tried stuff out a little bit. It's the sequence mixer, I believe it's called. And what it lets you do is more seamlessly transition from a sequencer, for those of you that are new to Unreal, the sequencer would be like an actual timeline cinematic type track, to seamlessly transition from that to gameplay. Now, you can already do that for cinematics. In my game design course, I've got a tutorial on how to go from gameplay camera to cinematic back to gameplay camera and have it transition smoothly. And they actually made that even easier with the gameplay camera system that they added. We don't have that on this list because that actually came out in 5.5, but it's another cool thing, the way that you deal with cameras on characters and games now. You can set up different cameras that you can seamlessly go between But this particular one here is really good for injecting little cinematic sequences into gameplay. So say you've got a game where you've got some combat and you've got some crazy combos going on. You can inject a really short little cinematic of the combo playing, cameras like hitting different angles and everything, and then it goes back to gameplay. Really good for that kind of stuff. The animation things we have in here, the motion trails, the revamped tween tools and curve editor. Those are some things that I haven't personally been able to play with, but one of our other guys with CG Pro, Scott Rosenkrantz, he has been showing me some really, really cool stuff with those. And he did an open day a while back, and I think he has another tutorial out there in the world. I could be wrong on that.
Yep.
But some of these things that you can do with this are taking a lot of the work out of your traditional DCCs, like, say, Maya. So instead of trying to craft all of these animations in Maya, now you can do so much more with it inside of Unreal directly, especially with things like Control Rig, which is something that allows you to have your completely rigged character inside of Unreal with rig controls that anybody from animation, you'd be familiar with your rig controls, being able to, have all the IK set up and everything. Having that with Control Rig inside of Unreal allows you to create these sequences, these animation sequences, without having to go to an external DCC and exporting your FBX and all of that. And now that it has the physics with it in 5.6, it's even crazier because you're getting some of that physics simulation along with all of your IK and everything. Really, really cool. But the big thing that I'm going to end up showing a little bit of a demo on here pretty shortly, MetaHuman Creator is, I'm sure you've all heard about MetaHuman coming out back in the day and being able to create characters with it. It's didn't have a lot of options initially, but they kept adding more to it. But the big thing with MetaHuman was you had to go to a browser, you had to get into a queue to be able to use their cloud solution. You build your character there, then you download it, you have to import it through the pipeline and everything. They have added MetaHuman Creator into the engine, so it's directly integrated into the engine now. So you don't have to go to an external browser or anything like that. You're in your project, you create your character there, you do all of the setup, all of the rigging, everything directly in engine, and then you just basically click 3 different buttons. So there's an auto rig that does go out to the cloud, but you auto rig it. Once it finishes that, you click the button to download the textures, and then you click the button to assemble, and then now you have it in your project. You never had to go outside. Absolutely beautiful. The networking and templates that we see down here, the Iris networking system, this is something that's been on my radar to play with. I haven't gotten to play with it yet because the project that I'm working on is not not switched over to it yet. We're still using the old methods, but the below that we have the new game templates, which are actually pretty cool here. If I could steal a screen share for just a second.
Oh,
Ed.
sure. I was just bringing it up for you. Take it away. Let me stop
Yeah.
sharing. All right.
Okay.
Perfect.
So let me grab this. And I'm just gonna show a quick little thing on that. So, all right, there we go. So if you've used Unreal before, this right here is the new third-person template. If you've used Unreal before, this is going to look a lot different than what you might be used to. They've changed things around, but it's not just the redesign of the template level. They've actually changed it to add in some they're calling variants. So you have your typical third-person one, but then the variants that you can grab for third person, we've got combat, platforming, scrolling. For first person, there's a arena shooter, survival horror, different things. But just to give you a quick little preview of what these different variants mean. So if you are in the, let me make sure that I am optimized for video sharing. Yes. So if you are in the combat one, you can see that we've got little health bars. You have the ability to punch, charge up things. All of this logic is already in there in the blueprints for all of these. Let me go to the platforming one here real quick. And this is a completely different thing. This doesn't, if I left click, I don't get my punch. So I don't have any of that combat stuff, but I have things like double jump. I have this little dash here. We have wall jumping, things like that. So all of that extra logic is added in here. And if I were to go to the side scrolling one, because I know this is a really popular one that I hear about all the time from classes that I've taught. Everybody wants to know how to do a side scroller. They have this nice little template in here, and it's got a lot of the stuff from the platforming one, wall jumping and things like that, double jumping, that sort of stuff. So these variants are really cool, but one little caveat with them is that don't they don't do everything. So in terms of like the combat one here, you'll find that if I come in here and play and I hit spacebar, I'm not able to jump because the combat one doesn't include the jumping. So that's for another shameless plug for CG Pro here, the game design class that I'm doing. One of the things that we learn about is how you can use these variants to take the pieces of what they do and add them into your own custom character, or how to take other pieces of the other variants and add them into one of these other variant characters. And so there's a lot of foundational stuff that we learn about in there, so that you learn how you can take some of the logic out of these templates here to be able to use. I'll stop my share there.
Awesome. Yeah, super cool. I was seeing as I almost got it there, but not quite. Definitely not in as much detail as John. I can add the little bit here that if you get to the games section on the launcher, that's where the variant lives down here. So if you pick games, you can choose first person, third person, and then you can choose the variant.
Yeah, since you have that open right there, there's something to point out is the variant. You'll see that you can choose none, which is going to give you the old one that has none of that extra stuff in it that you would have got from previous versions. Or you can choose one of the variants, but that little one down there at the bottom, that's the cool one because it takes all the different variants and adds them into the same project. So you can go in there and start picking things out and mixing and matching.
Why have just one? We can have it all.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it. Cool. And yeah, it's amazing seeing the converging worlds of games and film and watching how the animation in the game is getting better and better towards the point where you can not exactly call it mocap, but you can get so much better animation from gameplay that potentially that might evolve into being able to play a game and then act out things that could end up in a movie. It is pretty cool. So 5.7, here we are already in preview. This is the last one. New things came out. 5.7 is more about coalescing, and sometimes software companies do this with a release, or they will not create some blisteringly incredible brand new framework, and they will settle and try and make things work better. Everybody wants like, where's the nanite of 5.7 or the lumen or whatever, but this has got less of that in. It's working a bit more on
one thing that I will say that I'm really happy about with 5.7 is that first line up there on the production ready features, the PCG. So they introduced PCG in 5.3, I think it was. And every single version, they have changed it massively. And I remember I was actually teaching a class, because in my game design class, I have a PCG section, and I was teaching it in 5.3, but 5.4 had just come out. So I had a couple of students that started their projects in 5.4, and I'm over here and I'm teaching how to do this thing. And they're like, I don't see that node. I don't see that option. And so 5.4 drastically changed it. 5.5 drastically changed it again. 5.6 wasn't as big of a change, but it's still different. So I'm really happy that they've finally settled on a production ready version of it, which means that, going forward, it should work out of the box, crossing over versions. Substrate materials, production ready. The substrate materials are actually really cool, but I don't see a lot of people taking advantage of them just yet because I don't think a lot of people really know how. One thing that I've noticed with substrate from what I've messed with it is it goes back to the early days of PBR before the metallic roughness workflow, and it kind of removes the metallic side of it and switches it back over to a specular based version on top of also using roughness. So it's like um, you create metals in a different way, and so it's definitely going to take some learning in how to use it. But there was one thing that they mentioned that I know was scary for a lot of people. I heard a lot of people say they were scared when they mentioned 5.7 was substrate materials were going to be the default. That's actually not ended up not being the case. You do still have to turn it on and choose to use it. I'm sure down the line it will become the default eventually, but Substrate does have nodes in it that allow you to use the current gen PBR system. So I know a lot of people are scared that, oh no, we go over to Substrate now and all of my PBR materials that we've been making for years, they're not going to work and all of that. It's not actually the case. Don't worry about that. Substrate does have a node that lets you use the old metallic roughness workflow style, so that's all good. But this down here, the Nanite Foliage, this was something that started to come out as experimental in 5.5, and when it came out, I was actually working on a big open world mass multiplayer online RPG project, and it made a huge difference even in that form. 5.6 made it absolutely amazing. Nanite Foliage became such a game changer in 5.6. But what they've done with it in 5.7, to me, is probably one of the biggest bonuses of 5.7, is they've morphed it into a voxel system. So it just what it's going to allow us to do with large open worlds is, I mean, it's already blowing my mind and has me really excited for the future. If you want to see it in action, then check out some of the tech demos that CD Projekt Red is using or is doing for The Witcher 4. The voxelization of Nanite Foliage is actually was done to or for The Witcher 4, essentially. So as CD Projekt Red is over here doing, trying to do all these crazy innovations, one great thing about Epic Games is they are always working with the studios that are using their engine. And to be honest, a lot of the things in I can't talk about them directly, but a lot of the things that came in 5.5 and 5.6 were actually originally developed in-house at a studio I used to work at. And we talked to Epic. Epic saw this, they integrated it into the engine, so it's really beautiful that they're doing that. But this Nanite Foliage, oh my gosh, it is such a game changer on what we can do with open worlds. And then you bring in the procedural vegetation editor for it, which Ed marked down here is a speed tree for Unreal Engine. That is not inaccurate. One of the coolest things with this is the ability to have essentially rigged foliage. that fits into this nanite foliage that gets voxelized and everything. That's really cool about it. But you can have rigged foliage. So you can have, like, say, a tree, and then all of your different branches of the tree are essentially rigged. It's like a skeleton. And so they can move separately and differently. And you can create what are called foliage assemblies with it. And it's just, oh, it's absolutely beautiful. I think that's actually, Ed's demo is going to go into that, if I'm
I'm
not
going to show,
mistaken.
I will show a little bit of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And some few more things for 5.7. Megalites growing into beta from being experimental, I guess, supporting more types of lights and more features in the engine.
Oh yes, and that is such a major thing there too. The megalites. So what that was, it was also introduced in 5.5. It was a new system for lighting that really just enhances lumen. It's not replacing lumen, if you think that. It's enhancing what lumen does, but it allows you to have more shadow casting lights, like real lights, than you could before. And I've done some experimentations myself. Actually, earlier today, I was just testing it out as well. I had 144 shadow casting movable point lights, and I turned megalights off, and I was getting about 20 frames per second on my 4080 down here. Just flipping megalights on, that 20 frames per second shot up to 80 frames per second. So really powerful system. Megalights going into beta in 5.7.
Not wanting to upstage you, John, but I did a test with 50,000 of them when it came out. I just like
That's
punch it.
No, that is so awesome. That is so awesome. But it going into beta, that means, for one, it's going to become pretty much standard in there. But what they're adding in 5.7 that I've been playing around with in here too, the support for directional lights is huge. Because honestly, when it comes to lighting performance, your directional light is the biggest thing that's,
killer.
It's not those 10-point lights you have that everybody going to optimizing their lighting, they're like, oh, we need to take out half of our point light sources and turn off the shadow casting. And it's like, well, you save like, 0.01 milliseconds for each one. No, it's the directional light's the big performance killer, and megalights for directional light is huge. But
it's
translucency
always the biggest
lighting,
chunk of the graph when
yeah,
you're looking at the perf
yeah,
sort of profiling things that you've got in Unreal Engine. And for anyone that's not used to optimizing, this talk of optimizing is like, can sound foreign, but it is something that people have done in rendering for as long as I've been rendering. Improving the performance of non-real-time renders has always been a thing, and wanting to make renders go faster. It's just that now we have to make them run fast enough to be able to play in real time, but we've always wanted to make renders go faster, and it's really very similar things that we do here to make it go faster in real time as well. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. The other big thing that I will talk about here is the AI assistant, because we all know AI is the big thing everybody's talking about these days. The AI assistant in 5.7 is actually just an integration, really. So Epic already has their AI assistant out there on the web that you can use, and it's tailored for Unreal. And I'll be transparent with you guys. I'll be honest. It is it's a beta. It really is a beta still. It's still learning.
Maybe alpha.
Maybe alpha. Yeah. I still would rather go to ChatGPT for a lot of the advice that I might ask for in there on, like, say, hey, what would you think would be a good way to integrate these two features together, kind of thing. ChatGPT for me is still going to give me better answers than what the AI assistant does, but it is learning, and they are building it specifically for Unreal. So give it some time, and it will be the ultimate de facto Unreal AI assistant. Now it doesn't build everything for you. It doesn't have a make game button. That's not what, what AI is about, for us.
It's coming.
But don't say that. Don't say
People
that.
sorry.
I know,
It's
I
not
know, I
coming.
know it's coming, but no, it is coming. But the thing is, I think it was already mentioned that, there's the, the people that are using AI exclusively, and, the people that are using the old methods, the old ways exclusively, they're going to have their stuff, but it's those people that can use a mix of both, together, that are going to, be able to move forward. But this AI assistant directly in editor, it is pretty helpful. I actually did a demo of it a while back. I think earlier last month was it, for one of our CG Pro
Yep.
open
I think it was
days.
for open day.
Yeah. I think it was beginning of last month. And it's cool. It's cool. It's got some room to grow, but it's still kind of an experimental tool. But that's how all of these things work in Unreal, is they start out experimental, and then a couple of versions later, you've got this amazing standard that they've created.
It's amazing also seeing how people out there are making their own versions of things like this, and some of them are getting in there before the software vendor themselves are making them. So definitely, and using AI for everything these days, absolutely everything. It is a massive performance boost, and I do not fear that it's going to get rid of everybody. But we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. I want to show a few things. Excuse me. So let's jump into that mode. I'm going to show a little bit on some of the procedural vegetation, nanite, voxel, etc., thing. Here it is. So in this scene, I have essentially to get this, and I think there is on the slide there the instruction. Enable the plugin, procedural vegetation. It's experimental, but enable it, and then in the project settings, so edit plugins, go find the right plugin, and then in the project settings there, go turn on nanite vegetation, and then you will get this stuff. And if you want to play with it, basically once you've done those things, if you come down here to the engine content, this folder in the content browser, you will see engine and then plugins, and then if you scroll all the way down, you'll see one, or you can just search for it. If you do a search, if you scroll to the top and you just search for veg, it will show the location of this. But essentially you've got your procedural vegetation content here, and then there's a map, the asset zoo. If you crack that open, you'll see something like what I've got here. I just made it bigger, and sort of stress tested it a little bit more and pushed it a bit further for the voxel stuff. But open that one. I've got my own version that I made of this, and then within here you'll see these 4 trees, I guess. So you've got folders here for each of the trees, and if you take a look in those folders, you will see the procedural vegetation asset, which if I open it, I think it's already open over here somewhere. If I open this procedural vegetation asset, you'll see this builder here. I'm going to move that out of the way just for a sec, because it's very easy to get into the technical weeds very quickly. But I want to show the fun stuff first. So here's the trees inside these procedural volumes, and these boxes here, essentially, they're set up, these PCG volumes are set up so that they'll distribute a bunch of trees on the ground without you placing all of these trees. They're procedurally placed on the ground, and without getting deep into PCG, it is stands for procedural content generation, and it's one of Epic's answers to proceduralism in Unreal Engine. It just means that you, instead of having to do a bunch of things manually, you can create some rules and it will create things for you. One of those things being a layout of trees or anything. You could put anything in PCG. It doesn't have to be a tree. It doesn't have to be vegetation. It can be any asset, skeletal mesh. So inside here, we've got these trees here, and you can see them blowing in the wind. And when you load up this level, which I highly recommend as a way of exploring it, there is a little icon down here, this one, the wind. And with that wind, you can change the direction of the wind, but you can also dial it up. And if you see this little wind speed over here on the right, if I turn that down, you'll see the wind pretty much disappear. If I crank it right up to something obnoxious like 120, you can see all the trees kind of leaning over like that. And then if you were to rotate that wind, you can see it blowing away from us or towards us. By default, it's blowing to the left there. And these are being driven. The wind before this was generally used a kind of hack, which is a very performant one, using World Partition shader kind of trick to move vertices in a shader, as opposed to actually what this is doing, which is deforming an object or using a skeleton. Now, that's kind of where this nanite assembly comes in. I'm probably going to do another few minutes on this before I hand it over to you, John. But within this tree here, you can see, so this is the generator. This is the sort of speed tree environment for building your trees. Within this, you've got the ability to build a PCG-like graph. So the way that speed tree worked is creating conditions for a tree, and then at each point you would have a branch, and then how many branches branch off that branch, and then how many branches branch off that branch, and then eventually get leaves, and how many leaves grow off the third or fourth order branches. With this, you've got things like forces, so you can add more gravity, you can increase the gravity and see what it will do to the design of your tree. As you can see, I increased the gravity to 1. If I decrease it to half, you can see that more gravity equals wilty tree. So between the forces and the rules for this procedural generation, it will go off and procedurally create some kind of wire framework for a tree. And if you click through these, this example kind of shows you a little bit of how this comes together. Eventually you get to a mesh builder, which is like just the base mesh of the bark and the twigs. You then got a version of the curves to reduce it down. You've got foliage being instanced over it, and that's where each instances are a really great way of speeding up seed of anything in any CG, whether it's offline rendering or real-time rendering. And instances have typically been an entire object, but in this, instances are leaves or branches or twigs. So this tree is made up of instances of very small objects. So in that way, you can make all 4 variants of this tree with exactly the same bits, and you only have to make 1 twig. You don't have to make every tree. So this allows you to procedurally create variations. And once you get to the end of this, you can then force regenerate the whole thing or export, and it will then give you the option to export the tree, which you can then use back in your system, in your PCG system, or just place them manually. And you can see that this is actually creating a skeleton for the tree. So if I whiz down here in the skeleton hierarchy, you can actually see that it's created a skeleton that it then can use for physics calculations. So it can deform the tree more realistically, whereas the wind previously was it just kind of like going and looking like it was being bothered, as opposed to like specifically wind driving it in a certain direction or something crashing into it and knocking it. Like this opens up physics to it, whether it's wind or other types of collisions. And one of the last things I want to show here is if I zoom over to this forest here. So there is a massive square of trees here, very dense, packed trees, just to show how, you know, the lighting used to get really crunchy going through a very large amount of foliage or distributed instances in Unreal, and it's now to the point where it looks very nicely evenly distributed across the to a forest of that kind of size. What this is doing here is displaying with Nanite this entire forest. And if I was to go into the Nanite visualization, anyone that doesn't know Nanite, there's a bunch of people here who don't know Unreal, probably have no idea what I mean by Nanite. Nanite is a way that they've made it possible to have billions of triangles inside Unreal Engine with still a reasonable frame rate. This was the thing that used to hold it back. Was well, one of the things the most was number of polygons, and with that you could kind of see how things get simpler the further away they get. You sort of see the transitions where LODs start kicking in, and instead of swapping out the entire object, you're really able to get full resolution when you go this close, but things further back are only loading bits of themselves up, so that you don't need to load the full detail of that tree in the back, which is like less than a pixel. So I want to
That's amazing, Ed.
Yeah.
How many polys are in there? It must be like millions or something.
Probably more.
Yeah. Hey, your screen share is blurry for some reason. Could you maybe just stop sharing and then restart your sharing? It might help. I don't know.
Yep. Sure. I'm almost done here. Let me reshare without optimization on. Let's turn that off. Okay, how's that?
It's coming back. Hold on. Oh yeah, that's
better.
Definitely better. Hopefully it holds. Yeah. Continue. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thanks for letting me know. So was it like that the whole time? Was it hard to see?
It's kind of blurring in and out. It might be a bandwidth thing. I don't know. I've never seen that before, except for low bandwidth connection.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it could have been because I had the optimize set on. So yeah, with this, we've got Nanite, a whole entire forest of all the triangles of that entire forest. The interesting thing that I can do here, if I just grab I'm going to have to do something interesting here and copy this little thing out of my slide to do this, for want of a better way of doing it. What I want to do now is show the voxel thing kicking in. So we've got all the triangles there with Nanite, but they're taking it a step further, being able to take it from not just the lowest amount of triangles you can use to represent this thing, but using voxels, which almost thinking of it like a Minecraft version of your scene. So taking it even further down to even less data and even less things to load into memory, but that still calculate. If I throw this console variable in, you can see those voxels start to kick in. This is really, really pushing it really far to level 5. If I wind that back a little bit to, let's say, 2 or 3, you can see how the voxels appear. So in the foreground, you end up with geometry, and then it falls off to voxels just behind that. And then back in the distance, you've got really much bigger voxels going all the way back to whatever its limit is. So way, way less data. It still picks up on lighting. And if I go back, instead of looking at Nanite triangles, to the lit mode here, this is with voxels and pushed very far, and you can see the squares as long as my thing's not compressing too much. You can see the voxels just beyond this sort of foreground here. You can see them the squares appearing there, but it still lights properly all the way back. There's huge efficiency to this. I wanted to show that before I kind of wrap up on this. There's more to say there, obviously a lot of depth to that, but I want to give some time to John for the MetaHuman creator. So there you have it. There's some new stuff. John, are you good to get into the MetaHuman creator?
Yes, I am. So let me grab a couple things here real fast before I screen share. Minimize that. Okay, so MetaHuman creator. Now, I think one of the coolest things about this demo here is that I'm an environment artist. So I am by no means a character artist. I leave the character sculpting and all of that to the true pros. But MetaHuman is something that allows you to get in and quickly prototype out some characters. But also, if you are a character artist, or you have a character artist that can do some sculpting of custom characters, you can actually bring those into MetaHuman and use them as a base. So MetaHuman in general is super, super powerful. But the whole system that they have in here is just amazing. So let me share my screen here. Okay. So this right here, what you see is I'm in Chrome right here in a browser. This is metahuman.com. Now, how you used to have to work with MetaHumans is you go to the browser, you sign into your account, you go in and you open up the MetaHuman creator online. It's in the cloud. Now, the thing with it, because it was working off of a virtual machine, you actually had to join a queue to be able to log into it. So you could, when it first came out, those queues were really long. I remember it first came out and I wanted to try MetaHuman. I logged in, clicked the join button, and it was about an hour-long queue before I could get in. Eventually, it came down to like just a couple of minutes, and sometimes, during off-peak hours, it could get in pretty fast. But still, you would have to do your MetaHuman creation inside of the browser. Once you're all done with that, then you download it, you get your FBX files, your textures, all of that. You have to drag those in, import them, all of that. It was a process, and it was an external process. Now, inside of Unreal Engine 5.6, they have integrated MetaHuman Creator, so you can do it all in Engine. Now, one of the things, you pop this up right here. So this, what you see here on my screen, is it pixelated? Is it blurry? Just want to make sure it's clear.
It looks okay to me.
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure if that was an issue that we fix it right away. So this right here is for an actual project. Can't really talk much about the project right now, but these are two characters that are important right from the very beginning. They're the mother and father of the protagonist character in this game project. And these were created inside of MetaHuman Creator in 5.6. In fact, the game was originally being developed in 5.5, and I specifically went through the grueling process of migrating over to 5.6 because of MetaHuman Creator, because it's having that directly in engine is such a huge game changer that it was worth the effort to make that migration over and all of the changes that had to be done to support that. So these guys right here created directly in engine, didn't have to go externally or anything, didn't go into ZBrush, anything like that, all inside of the MetaHuman Creator. Now, if you want to use MetaHuman Creator, there are a couple of things that you have to do. First off, in your engine, you go to your engine version and you click on here and you go to your options. You need to make sure that you have this MetaHuman Creator core data installed. It's about 5.5 gigabytes worth of stuff. Without that, your MetaHuman Creator is not going to work very well. So you just go into your options, you can check that, you hit apply, it'll download it and install that for you. If I come over here to my 5.7 preview, you'll see that I when I installed it, I did not check that box. I forgot to. So if I wanted to show you how to do something in 5.7 with this, I would have to download almost 6 gigabytes of stuff, which is why we're going to do this in 5.6. But you have to do that first off. That's going to get all the stuff that you need to be able to work with it. Second, let me pop in over here where you can actually see some of these MetaHumans here in game. Second thing that you have to do is you go into your plugins and we go down here to MetaHuman and we'll see that there are 6 plugins in here. I just turn them all on. I believe the main ones that you have to have are, so there's the MetaHuman creator, of course. There's the core tech, and then I don't think you need the MetaHuman SDK. I think it's just these 2 that you need.
Just creator. Yeah, works with just creator.
Yeah. LiveLink is good to have on here. Because if you don't have it, then your blueprints that it generates to be able to preview off of won't work. So even if you're not using using LiveLink features, you do need to have this on. Me, I just come in here in every project and I just turn them all on. Just do that and let it be. After you do that, you'd have to restart your project, of course. Now, these do not come turned on by default. You start a new project and you want to use MetaHuman Creator, you need to go into the project, plugins, and turn these on because they're not on by default. But once you do, you're able to create these MetaHumans, which let me get up here. This is what they look like in game. So this is the game version of them. This isn't even the cinematic version. This is the game version. And one of the cool things you can see with it right here is the hair. And I absolutely love her hair on this. It is using the groom technology. So you might be familiar with games in the past. They use something called hair cards, which are just planes with alpha maps for the hair on them. Groom is like just completely changes everything. That's what makes it actually look like hair here. But of course, the MetaHumans, as you zoom out, you'll see there are a little bit of a change. So this is groom. I come back. Now it's transferred over to hair cards. So if you're using MetaHumans for gameplay, you can still, for the close-ups, get that cinematic look and still get good performance even at this different distance because it translates over to hair cards. And of course, at like think about this point here, it goes into a helmet, which is just a piece of geometry and a texture on it, not even cards anymore. But MetaHuman Creator, what does it actually look like? Well, down here we go. So we're going to look at mom here. MetaHuman Creator has all the features of the MetaHuman app directly in engine, in the Unreal UI, and it just works all together. We come in here and I can't do anything with her because she's already locked, but what I can do is I'm going to pop over to this other project. I'm going to show you how this actually starts. So I come in here and let's see, I right click, I go to MetaHuman, and we just create a MetaHuman character. And I'll just name this MH new persona, I'll call it. Let it do that. And then, oh, it wants to take a moment. Okay. Now, if I double click it to open it up, missing project settings. Yeah, I can enable those. Let me close this other project here. Don't need to save those. Okay, so I open it up and this asset is what has the MetaHuman Creator UI here. So in this, I can come in here and we see I've got this MetaHuman here. And if we go up here to this first one, presets, there are a bunch of presets in here. that you can use as a starting point. So let's say I wanted to do, we'll do Celeste here. So if I just double click on her, it's going to import that preset. Give it a second. It does take a little bit of time for it to integrate these things. Now, when you were using it in the cloud, it would work off of the virtual machines that Epic had. Here, it's actually running off of my my computer here. But you'll see the preset brings in her face, it brings in her eyes. We've got the eyebrows and everything. But in this, there we go, her hair is all loaded, and it looks great because it is the groom, not just hair cards. But once that all loads in, you can come in here and you can actually change things. So I come down here to the body, and it's going to let me change some different things with the body. One cool thing is you can blend some presets. Not going to focus on the body right here because I want to actually get to the head where all the good stuff is. So in this, something that we can do is we can actually blend some of these presets together. Now, these presets come with that core data. We can actually bring in things from the outside. So if you have a character artist or you are a character artist and you do your own sculpting, you can import that in here and use it to do some of the blending. So I come in here and we'll bring in these three. And then with the blending, you can see I can change based on these three different ones that I have over here. So you can start to bring it in a way where, let's say you're working off of ancestors. Like say you put in maybe a a mother, grandmother, great grandmother. You could even technically bring in like maybe a father or something like that and get some of those features through that blending. You can also come in here and you can actually do sculpting in this. So you go into the sculpt mode and you can see you can grab these points. Here we're going to change her nose around a little bit. We're going to bring her eyes a little bit bigger here. So you can do some of this individual sculpting. And then teeth and eyelashes. There's some things that you can change with the teeth and eyelashes here, different kinds of eyelashes. If you've used a character creator in a game, this might look a little familiar. I'm going to go down here into materials though, because the materials are where you can really start to change some things. So the preset has the base material on it, but it also has the shape of the face. You can do the sculpting and all of that, but you can get more detail out of these materials on here. So I look down here and under skin, can you read the text okay in this?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, cool. Because this is where it actually gets pretty important with the text. So you see this where it says face texture 99. Well, there are different face textures that we can add in here. So let's say we'll go to, there we go. So face texture 70. Now, suddenly she looks a lot older. We didn't change anything with the geometry. We didn't do any sculpting or anything like that. This is just the texture on top of it. I come in here and I can add some complexion into it. We can do things with the body texture as well. There aren't as many options in here. Skin tone, we can change a little bit. I can give her a little bit of a darker skin tone. I can give her a little bit of a paler skin tone. Maybe we're going to give something right in here like that. So now I've already changed her look quite a bit just by changing those textures. So this is probably one of the most important parts when you're creating the characters in here. So it's not actually the sculpting. I mean, obviously you can do different nose shapes and ear shapes and face shapes and everything, but a lot of your extra detail is going to come from these textures over here. And of course, there's the hair. This hair and clothing section. Right now she's got, with this long straight with bangs, I can switch it over to just the long straight. It's a matter of just double clicking on it, and it's going to load it in. It'll take a second. So any of these that you bring in, yeah, it is a little slower. It does take a little bit of time to bring that in, but once you do, see how's her hair change. Of course, it's gonna work slow when I'm trying to show it. We'll let that load in, and I'll look at some of this other stuff. There we go. So there, now we have different kind of hair. Go into the details, and we can change color of the hair. Come in here, give her a, like maybe some, oh wait, those are eyelashes. Where's my hair? Here we go, the hair. Let's make it, add the more melanin. It's going to make it darker. Take it away. It's going to make it nearly white. So I go something like, say, this, make it a little darker, go into the dye color. Gonna give her some blue here. And if I take the melanin down a little bit, it starts to come off a little green in that. We've got all these different settings that we can do on the hair, and then all the way down to like her eyelashes, her eyebrows, all of that. And this lets us rapidly create some characters. Now, clothing is another thing. We come down here, and what do I have? It just comes with the default clothing in here, the default garment, which you see her wearing. Of course, if I click on this and, go into details, here we are, outfit clothing. I can change the colors of it like that. But to get different clothing in here, you can import it. Anything that you've made in, say, like Marvelous Designer or something like that. But that does bring something I wanted to show, which is if I go to the Fab store here, there is a new section that you'll find under 3D here, maybe. No, it's not where it is. Oh, where is it? Maybe it's not as easy to find in this here. But if we do, let me grab it from over here in the browser. In the browser, if you go to fab.com, there is a MetaHuman channel here, which has all of these pieces of clothing, hair, stuff like that. So Fab has a whole new section for all of this kind of stuff. So one thing that the MetaHuman creator did also do was it opened up an entirely new market to creators that are able to create clothes, hair, things like that. One in here that I want to make you guys aware of is this MetaHuman TechWear outfit. This one is completely free. It's offered by Epic themselves. So you can grab this one if you want to play with a different outfit on here. You saw over in my other project, which I did close for performance reasons on here, I had a Western character that had an entire Western outfit that I believe, where was it? In my library here, I had, let's find this. Here we go. Western bundle set of clothes. I had this entire set of Western clothes that these are ready for MetaHuman. I was able to drag them in here into the outfits. But in the interest of time, we're just going to go with this right here. So I want to show you that I told you earlier there was a 3-step process, basically 3 buttons to make this into a usable character. And you get to those down here in this assembly. So I go into assembly, and there's 3 things you have to do. You have to rig it, download your textures, and then you assemble it. So I look down here and it says character is not rigged. How do you rig it? Well, there's this button right here that says create full rig. And then there's also this create joints only rig. So if you want to use blend shapes, morphs, things like that, you want the full rig. If you're just going to do joint-based animation, you can do this one. But either way, when you do it, going to click on that one, and you'll see it does auto rigging face mesh down here. This is where it's actually calling the cloud. So this is happening in the cloud. It's not happening on my machine. So it goes into the cloud, calls their auto rigging surface, and it comes in here. It's not only rigging the body, but it is rigging the face as well. So in the game project that I was showing you earlier, where we had these two, these have full facial rigs. So this particular game project has a lot of cinematics in it with a lot of dialogue. And I have my dialogue system tied into the audio and the lip syncing to the audio. So their mouths move, they have facial expressions, all of this. And that's because this auto rig service gives us that full facial rig as well. It also gives us the full body joints. It gives us the fingers, the toes if you need them or want them, and it is going to make it so that you can apply pretty much any animation that you might get from the marketplace. So if you go into the Fab marketplace and you get any kind of animation pack, they're just going to automatically work with this because those are going into the Epic skeleton, which is what this has. So then the next thing that you would need to do is you just download your texture source here. So that's the second thing. So this is going to download the textures that you created. So that's going to the cloud to retrieve them. So we created them in here and we're getting the preview of them in here. But once you've got that all set up, you download those full resolution ones there. And then once you have that, let me click out of it and go back to assembly here. This assemble button is now green. It doesn't have that error. I click on this and it's going to actually build the character that you can then use. And this takes some time to actually do, so we probably won't get to show it here, but it assembles it down. You have your skeletal mesh, you have your materials all set up, you have your groom set up, you have your textures and everything in there. It gives you a blueprint that you can start from, or you can easily integrate that skeletal mesh into into your character blueprint. You can use it to you can use it to use in cinematics and things like that. But easy way to start to get some more characters into your projects here. So, in the interest of time, I'm gonna pass this over.
Thank you, John. Yeah, we had some good questions that answered those as you were going, hopefully correctly. That was cool, very cool. It's amazing. The digital humans have been so hard to do over the years that having that much to jump off, I think is incredible. And you can push them really far and make them look really, really not like humans too. Got a few more things that I want to share. So I think we have a little bit more time before we get to the Q&A. We've been doing some Q&A all along, but tell me again if my screen gets crunchy. So a little bit about the future here. Check the roadmap. Type Google Unreal Engine roadmap, and you will find this thing. It has all of the versions going back and forwards for a little way as well, so you can see what is coming up. It's well worth keeping an eye on. It's exciting to see where this is going. There's a lot of cool stuff coming up. A little bit about the AI stuff, as I said we would cover. I'm going to show a couple of real quick things here. John already covered a bit on the AI assistant. You can get AI needs good inputs, and Unreal's actually really good at creating inputs for AI. This one that I want to show really quick here is called ViewGen. This is a plugin that you can go buy for $6, I think it is. It basically takes your viewport and sends it to Gemini, or Nana Banana, as everybody calls it, and we'll always call it probably. So with this, you can compose your scene here. We've got this character here. You can frame it up, and compose it the way you want it. This 3D model was actually was made from a single image into 3D using HITEM 3D, HITEM. It is crazy what is happening in terms of what you can make with generative AI, including 3D. This was originally a car. I turned it into a picture of a transformer, then turned it into a 3D model, then brought that into Unreal Engine. And then when I hit this generate button, it takes the prompt here and my viewport, sends it to Nana Banana, comes back with this picture. So there it is. I can frame up the image that I want. I can use the model, the exact model that I want, and regenerate the environment around it. And this is a picture, but extrapolate a bit further forwards to the point where we're able to create environments. You can, to some extent, already create bits of environments, but they have a 3D tool doing what it does well, navigating or composing, doing layout, controlling the perspective and the composition that you want, and then having AI fill in a lot of the gaps. You can also use, this is a picture of cesium, and cesium being a way to pull in GIS data, Google Earth data. Let me just bring back my Unreal there, not that one, this one. If I open up this level here, this one right here, this is going to load up London town, where I used to live and where I'm from. This is a Google Earth tiles streaming into Unreal Engine, plus a little bit of extra building that I put here. So you can frame up on this model here and then say, make this sunset, sun in front of us, little fluffy clouds, and then here generate, and this will go off and create a picture based on this view. It's very faithful and loyal to that view, and it will go and create a better looking version of it, relit. And here's a whole load of examples that I did earlier, including cars and some of the robot stuff. There's the one that I just did. And obviously relights is very faithful to the original there. And then I've got some additional ones that I did earlier on over here. So different lighting conditions. And then I started to get a little carried away trying to imagine what the future of that could look like, and getting creative with it, being able to put a nice little park in the foreground, or different riffs on that idea, I guess. Flying cars, obviously. So just a couple of fun things that you could do incorporating CG and generative AI together, which I think personally is the future, and leads me to this last little bit, which I wanted to talk about. I'm happy to stay on and answer questions about where we think CG is going, where AI is going. I want to talk very briefly about the course that we're doing, which is in AI for filmmakers on Sunday. It starts on Sunday. It's 5 weeks. I'm teaching it. John also has a course that he does in game development, so I want to give that a minute as well. The AI for Filmmakers Bootcamp, we have some amazing guests as well, friends that I've worked with in visual effects and virtual production. John Brennan and Tom T from the ETC is joining us. So we have some great mentors for this course. The curriculum is a lot of the fundamentals of AI for the first week, weeks 2 to 4. So three weeks of a lot of workflow. They're getting in deep with Comfy UI, being able to use that in conjunction with 3D tools like Unreal Engine. So be able to control the imagery that you want to get out of it, because that's a lot of what people are having trouble with in terms of using AI. We'll use some easier tools, we'll use some more complex tools, and then we'll end up with a lot of the project work that you work on throughout, finishing up with a final piece, a short film or a piece for your showreel. This is something I'm very excited about, and I'm thrilled to be teaching again. I'm still an instructor in my own school. It's 5 weeks long. We have Sunday morning lessons and labs every week. A lot of support throughout the way through our teaching platform. It's all live taught, so you also get a certificate at the end of it. The cost for this one is, with everything included, project and labs and instruction, is $12.97 for the 5 weeks, and we're going to be finishing out this year. We'll also have a little bit into next year. So reach out. We have a link or two that we can share that gives you a free lesson, an example, which I'm happy to share with you guys if you would like to just watch the free hour. If you're interested in joining us, then let me know. And just for the last couple minutes here before we take Q&A, John, would you like to go through your game development course? If you're really into Unreal Engine, this is a fantastic course. It's very thorough. John Waynick is the instructor, and John's going to describe it better than I am.
Yes. So one really important distinction that I want to put out there right from the bat is that, yes, the name of this course is Intro to Game Development, but it is also the embodiment of our blueprint training as well. So we did used to have a game development course, and then we had Intro to Blueprint, Advanced Blueprint, all of that. That was for both game developers and game film. So it covered a lot of things for how to use Blueprint in ways that are useful for film. All of that has actually been packaged into this one right here. So all of our blueprint for game and film stuff that was blueprint focused is now inside of this. So yes, it's about game development. Yes, the project you build at the end is you're building a game project, but all of that blueprint stuff is in there. So it's really useful for anybody more on the film and virtual production side that want to learn how to use blueprint, how to do technical art that's useful in virtual production. That's all going to be found in here now. So it's all wrapped up into this. And I know I've had a lot of people that have asked me, when are you doing the next blueprint course and all of that? And previously I had to bounce between doing game and blueprint for film stuff. Now it's all just in one. So that's going to be in here. But what we do in this, the first thing in here, we get in, you see module 1 here, the Unreal for game designers. This is a focus on the core aspect of Unreal Engine as being a game engine and how you can use it for creating interactivity. Then we get into Intro to Blueprints, and this is where it's useful for anybody wanting to do games or even wanting to do film. So, you know, if you're in the virtual production side of things and you want to learn some tech art, want to learn some blueprint, this is a really fun way to do that with this course. But we're going to get pretty deep into blueprints throughout it. I get into the object-oriented side of it, really getting that kind of programmer fundamentals going on with it. And we learn how to build interactions. Now, one of the things that I like to do in this course is I like to go in and I like to teach the foundations, the fundamentals, and really, really focus on those. And there's 2 reasons for it. The first reason being that these fundamentals, even in 5.6, are the same ones that I was teaching in 4.0 back in 2014 when I was doing game design classes then, because those fundamentals have not changed. They're still there. So once you master those, you've pretty much future-proofed yourself for any version of Unreal Engine going down the line. So like I said, same exact fundamentals as 4.0 are the same ones in 5.6. Now, the second reason is because I see a lot of tutorials out there that walk you through how to do something. They hold your hands step by step, all of that. And then people come out of those tutorials and they don't know how to do anything themselves. They only know how to do what they learned in that exactly the way that is taught. So that second reason is that I like to teach you how everything is like Legos. So it's not just teaching you how to build with Legos, but teaching you how to actually build the Lego pieces themselves that you can then put together in different ways to pretty much create anything you want. And you can see in here, you can see the list of the modules. We get into world interaction, user interfaces, interactables, NPCs, and game AI, which is different from the current AI that's out there right now. Game AI is your actual non-player characters doing things within the game world. We get combat mechanics, level design, all of that. But it all comes down to those fundamental foundations. And I've had people take my course here and go through it, and they create wildly different things from what I am creating as my project in the course. And it's because of those foundational pieces. And the way that I do this specifically, an interesting thing about it is I was just talking to a previous student earlier today who is also in the educational field. And she was telling me that she actually uses my game design course that she took as the base for how she teaches hers at the school that she's teaching at. I had another student that's also an instructor at a school as well, and he told me the same thing 3 weeks ago. So this way that we do it, the idea is like whatever it is that you want to build, you get those foundational Lego pieces, and then you get to put them together any way that you want to. That's the fun part about it. This also comes with the private coaching sessions. So for me, working directly with you, it's all about your project and what you want to build. And I work with you to help you realize that. And of course, 4 doesn't seem like enough. I know it's not enough. You're going to need more. You're going to want more. And we do actually offer additional coaching sessions that you can add on to it. So there's that going forward. The price for this one I think that's accurate, $2,297. Ed would know more about that. But coming into this, it's a little bit bigger, 10 modules. Think of a module as a week. So think of it as a big 10-week course that you get to go through. And at the end of it, you have your own little game prototype, or what we call in the game industry a vertical slice, that is playable, and you can make a build of it and hand it out to your friends and colleagues.
Awesome. Thank you, John.
Very cool, guys. Thank you so much. It's really amazing what you can do with Unreal. I've just been blown away. I took Ed's course a while back, and it's way better than watching YouTube videos. Let me tell you. You really get a lot of Q&A, individual coaching, everything. So, hey, I have a general question just to kind of get my head around where Unreal is at in the industry now. Are we seeing films actually using feature films using Unreal? I mean, I know they're using it some in the virtual production, right? Are we seeing finished product, or is it mostly indie films still? What are you guys seeing?
Actually, Unreal's been used in film for many years, going back to Star Wars movies of many years ago, and the Pixar movies have used it for frames. It's been used for quite a long time, but definitely The Mandalorian was a sort of pivot point for it in terms of virtual production. Lots and lots of projects since then have used it, whether in LED volumes or rendering in real-time graphics, for feature animation, which is a huge push for them currently. Just to share this scene again, there's the slide image on the slide, but this is the world of Moana that I rebuilt in Unreal Engine using some of the Disney assets and some other things like the boat and the actual Moana character over there. The quality of this is higher than some of the animation that you could see out there on TV. So it's being looked at very extensively for feature animation, or for at least episodic animation. John, I don't know if you've got anything you want to add to that, but yeah, it's getting used more and more.
So in terms of the LED screen stuff, pretty much anything you see on TV these days, most of the stuff has an LED screen involved. Especially anything that's from Amazon or Netflix or Apple TV, they're all using LED screens for that. So there's that aspect of it. But like Ed said, it's been used prior to that. One example of that is I used to work for a company called Mutiny Effects, and we didn't have LED screens at the time, but we were doing Netflix. We were doing productions for Netflix, and how we were actually using it was we had actors that were acting up against a green screen, but we were on our monitors, we could see the digital background already. So it was the precursor to virtual production. So on our monitors, we had the green screen chroma keyed out in real time, the Unreal Engine environments in the background. And so even though the actors could not see and it wasn't in camera visual effects, we were still using it there. Now you've got the LED screens is the obvious one for virtual production, but there are a few things that I have seen a lot of lately. Not as much in film, but a little bit in TV and a lot in commercials and marketing and advertisement, where full renders coming out of Unreal Engine.
That's great. Yeah, that's right. We have a couple questions here. And by the way, you guys answered a lot of questions. I believe attendees can go into the Q&A box and see the answered questions, if I'm not mistaken. But here we have a couple active ones. What are your favorite uses of Gaussian splats in the new version of Unreal Engine? And I know I've seen, splats being used now for virtual production. It's pretty amazing stuff, even volumetric, right? The volumetric studios where they have the cluster of cameras all around you, and you're getting like detail like hair and cloth that, it's hard to get with the photogrammetric approaches.
Yeah, splats are an interesting beast because photogrammetry, volumetric capture with polygons, was always had the problem of fine detail ending up just being this blob that looked very obviously a blob, where it should be a piece of hair or something fine like a leaf or a twig. And Gaussian splats are really good at representing those finer details. They also have a side benefit of being able to be at different angles, different colors, so therefore give you reflections and be able to capture different lighting from different.
That's right, like mirror surfaces or whatever. It's actually getting the surface properties of the materials.
And there's some very interesting things happening in that space, from being able to manipulate them, even be able to capture 4D splats, so animated splats, being able to manipulate them and rig them and make them move, even just
right. But they're not polys, right? So can you light them in Unreal? Can you manipulate them in Unreal? I mean, what's the limitations there?
The most frequently used, or the one I see the most, is Verlinga. There's a plugin for Unreal that you can light them. It isn't lighting in the truest sense of the word, because the splat is a weird thing. It's actually got its lighting baked into it, and it view dependently as well, so that it is a function of the splat to have already been lit and therefore not to really want to be relit. That said, there are things that you can do to relight them, and Verlinga have taken it the furthest I've seen inside Unreal to be able to relight scenes. It's actually it's pretty good. It's not lighting in the truest sense of the word, but it does look like it, and it's very cool being able to create very complex photographic backgrounds in a way that's way nicer for certain things like trees or hair or like fine detailed things, and quickly. And it's a lot easier to do that in some ways than it is to build out a whole environment in Unreal with artists modeling all the things that are in that. So you get all the benefits of a 3D environment with parallax, and there are a lot of advances going on in that field. There is some interesting generative experiments going on, being able to generate splats. So making up an environment or having a single image. World Labs is doing some really interesting stuff. They're having a single image, being able to generate a Gaussian splat environment from a single image, not a whole set of images like you would typically train a splat on, or get a photogrammetry model from one image. Like the models I showed earlier were run through a polygonal generative AI tool called HiTem 3D, but there are people starting to create splats from single imagery. This huge area of discovery, being able to create worlds on the fly, on set. Obviously people would want that all day long. I think the uses for it are, in-camera visual effects, putting it on LED walls or on green screen, being able to get backgrounds up in front of your live action much easier than building 3D environments. That's an obvious use case for it. Very useful in previs if you put a splat into Unreal and use it as the basis for further AI work. Is another thing, being able to scout real film sets and scout them virtually. Virtual scouting for actual real live action shoots. There's so many things that they can be used for. And they're getting faster and faster to display. They're getting LOD behaviors programmed into them. They're getting faster to generate, because typically they would take a while to cook, but they're getting faster and faster to make them, running at real-time speeds and web browsers and on phones. And
Wow.
yeah,
That's amazing. That's amazing.
A lot to say on that.
Christine asks, what is your recommendation for character design workflows between Unreal, MetaHumans, Digital Garments, and Marvelous Designer and DCCs for character props like hats and shoes and jewelry and stuff?
I can talk on this.
John, yeah, you go.
Yeah. Put the environment artist on this question. Yes, of course. No, it's so I am a huge proponent of custom creation, custom 3D art. And that especially it rings true with characters as well. I'm not a character artist myself. You saw how I was able to use MetaHuman Creator to create something really quickly to be able to use for prototyping. But for an actual production here, if I want to bring in, custom characters, I still go back to having my character artist use more traditional workflows, but primarily focusing on the face. Now, if there is something that needs to be done with the body very custom, then yeah, go ahead and sculpt that. But mostly it comes down to sculpting the face, and then you sculpt that, you get that all set up and ready to go, and then you can actually bring that into MetaHuman Creator. So I mentioned that a little bit, how you have the ability to sculpt things in there, and you have the ability to blend different things, but you can also just import a mesh that you've already created of a face, bring that in, and just use that. So definitely traditional workflow of starting with a base mesh, taking it into ZBrush, sculpt it out to the custom way that you need it. Then I would bring that into MetaHuman Creator and rely on MetaHuman Creator for essentially generating the actual character that's going to be used in the project, whether it's a game project or an animation project, because that way it's you don't have to worry about rigging it yourself. You can rely on the auto rigging that MetaHuman Creator provides. You have it all set up to the epic skeleton with that. And so that means your animations, you can use any animation pack on Fab, but you can also bring in your own mocap and retarget. For anything like props, we're talking about jewelry and things like that. I would model those outside in whatever DCC of choice, Maya, Max, whatever you want to use. Bring those in and add those as part of a wardrobe, because you can have the different clothing pieces that you can add in there. And then Marvelous Designer, of course, is great for creating custom clothes. You just import those in and you can add those. So essentially what you're doing is you're using traditional workflows. And then once you get into the engine, you're using MetaHuman Creator as a place to assemble it, a place to auto rig it, and a place to get it all set up and ready to use with an automatic level of detail. You don't have to worry about creating any of that yourself. It gets that all set up and makes it usable in there. And then any props that you might have, like say weapons, say you've got a character that you want them to have a sword, that I would do as a model, and I would bring that in and then actually attach that on a socket to the character. You don't need to integrate anything like that into MetaHuman Creator. MetaHuman Creator would just be for the face, the body, the clothes, that sort of thing. So traditional workflow with but instead of just importing it into Unreal and trying to set up everything yourself, lean on MetaHuman Creator's strengths of being able to create that fully assembled character that then you can use with control rig, blueprint, everything really easily.
Very cool. I am curious what you guys think. Mocap rigs are getting cheaper and cheaper, and it's getting to like DIY levels practically, where you don't even need to go into a studio. But I'm wondering what you think of the state of the art in mocap, and also there's the camera based. They're like deriving skeletons from using, I guess, AI, sort of guessing. Like when you have arms crossed or something like that, it can kind of figure it out, right? What do you think of the latest mocap tech that you've seen?
I've seen some really cool stuff with that. I've got some friends that have been using some of the like iPhone apps and webcam apps, and obviously your setup is going to be a big deal. So you want to make sure you have a good camera, good lighting, and all that. So you're capturing everything in detail. You got good background separation. If you've got all of that, then I've seen some amazingly accurate mocap coming out of it. There's some other some accessories that you can get. I think there's one called, I think it's called a Mocappy, I believe it's called.
Hmm.
Which, these are just like little accessories that you can get, and you can do your is that yeah, right there. You can do like just home-based mocap and stuff like that. If I had $2,000 to spare, I could have bought they have like a consumer level Rococo suit that when I was at uh where what we were at something. Where was it we were at in Vegas, Ed?
NAB.
NAB, yeah, we were in it. So many different conferences. We were at NAB, and I was talking to one of the Rococo representatives, and he was like, "Yeah, we've got this, and we've got this little thing here, and the suit, and all of it's like $2,000 for all of it." And I'm like, "That's, maybe not consumer level, but it's consumer hobbyist level
Mhm.
pricing for that sort of thing, and it's only going to get cheaper for that kind of equipment, I feel like." But you
Yeah.
pair that with the camera based stuff. It, not all of it with the camera based stuff is fully professional, but it is enough to a level to prototype and concept out, and that's a big part of it.
That's great.
It's getting way better. I mean, computer vision, I studied it in the 90s. It just has got extremely good. It's very good at solving those problems. I think that is, if you want the precision, it's still the Vicon OptiTrack, like 30,000 plus. Like the inertial suits is still XNs that are the king of that space, but they're expensive. They're coming down. Rococo and some of those lower end suits are really good. The Makopi is awesome. They've actually got a camera now that grounds the inertial, so it like adds to it and helps to make it better. I think the camera stuff's the one to watch. I think it's just going to keep getting better.
Right. So final question here. 5 years from now, do we still need to learn Unreal? I mean, are we going to have some sort of dashboard on top of Unreal that you just turns prompts into scenes? What do you guys think?
People are making those already. You know, that I think Epic are sort of slower to make one for themselves, but people are straight up vibe coding MCP, model control protocol is what that stands for all these different environments. I just saw an amazing one come out today for Houdini. That is, Houdini is one of the most complex 3D software out there. If you have something that can help you, we're trying to simplify the path to getting computers to make us do things that we want them to do. The first CG I ever did, I had a code for every single pixel I got back. Now we've got interfaces, and people are still complaining that they're too complicated, and we want to just be able to talk to the computers and have it do what we are asking them to do. That is going to become more and more and more the way. The software that we see in front of us today is going to change wildly, in my opinion, I think, in the next few years. And I don't say that lightly. I don't think Unreal's going away. I think it's actually a really fantastic companion for AI. I believe in persistent 3D environments, and I put many people who don't agree with me on that, but I believe in persistent 3D environments for real time, but also for working with the AI. I think that the software that we see in front of us today, though, is just going to get absolutely turbo driven. Also, other people are going to come out of nowhere and make things. Like, it is going to get crazy in the next few years, in my opinion.
Very cool.
John.
We have in the game industry, we have this term that we call an asset flip, which refers to these just these games that come out that people just reuse the same stuff from the marketplace and just try to throw different gameplay on top of it, and it doesn't really change and everything. And it's just the AI equivalent of that would be what they refer to as AI slop. And I feel like that's always going to be a thing. No matter what the technology is, that's always going to be a thing. You're going to have the people looking for the make game button, and they're going to, create, we'll call it game slop, film slop, whatever. But then you're going to have the people that have those foundations down, that have the creativity, they have the artistic skills, the artistic eye, all of that.
Storytelling.
And they're gonna get lost. They're gonna get lost unless they adapt. But if those people can adapt to be able to use these tools to speed up their workflows, then I think some beautiful things are going to come out of it. Really, like the only thing that I want AI to do is I want a make UVs button. Like, if I can get AI to just UV for me and not ever have to worry about that again, I would love that.
I know we've got to finish, but this is a Raptor engine that was generated from a single image in 3D. And yeah, it's got problems with it. But if we can get here now from one single picture that had no back, it made its back by itself, and it's got all of this detailing.
That's just the evolution of photogrammetry right there.
It is going to get crazy.
It's I can't wait. Well, guys, thank you so much, Ed Dawson-Taylor, John Waynick. You guys rock. Thank you for everything, man, and definitely check out the courses. These guys can go as deep as you want to go with this stuff. So, and Abilene, why don't you come on and wrap us out, and see you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all so much for your time. It's been wonderful having you. Thank you, Edward. and John for sharing your time and extensive knowledge with us. I want to acknowledge and thank the LA-CMC Graph Chapter Technical Production Team. We have Ed Lentz, producer and past chair. We have Leonard Daly, our chair of electronic services. We have Franz Zandonella, producer, and our lovely Joan Collins, producer and co-chair.